On the evening of November 22nd, 1987, the Bears had just defeated the Detroit Lions. Families were settling in for the night, and WGN's 9 o'clock news was recapping the game like it had every Sunday before. Then, at exactly 9:14 p.m., the majority of televisions in Chicago went black. The signal was gone for thousands for a few seconds. When the picture returned, the news was gone. For one of the rare times in television history, a Chicago television station was hacked. 2 hours later, they would do it again and leave viewers witness to one of the strangest and most technically sophisticated broadcast crimes in American history. To understand why this night became one of the most famous unsolved mysteries in history, you first have to understand what television meant in the 1980s. Every evening, familiar faces stepped into Americans' living rooms. Peter Jennings delivered the news, Bob Barker gave away prizes, Johnny Carson closed out the night. Sitcom families made people laugh. Football games brought people together. Television wasn't just entertainment, it was part of the country's daily rhythm. November 22nd had been an ordinary Sunday, and that evening more than 63,000 people packed Soldier Field as the Chicago Bears defeated the Detroit Lions 30-10. As the game ended, the channel changed the number one local broadcast show in America. It was WGN's 9 o'clock news with Dan Roan. Then at exactly 9:14 p.m., the picture disappeared. Thousands across Chicago reached for the TV remote, but within seconds the image came back, although it wasn't Dan Roan.
So am I. Actually, the computer that we have running our news from time to time took off and went wild. So what we're going to do is start over from the top with the Bears.
Broadcasting to every house in Chicago, a man swaying in front of a metallic background wearing a plastic Max Headroom mask filled the broadcast. Now, in the late 1980s, Max Headroom was everywhere. The computer-generated television personality started in his own series, appeared in music videos, and had become the face of Coca-Cola's advertising campaign. Seeing Max Headroom on television was perfectly normal. Watching him interrupt the television station itself, though, was not. Inside WGN, confusion quickly turned to urgency. Producers scrambled to figure out what was going on, but the problem wasn't coming from inside the station. Somehow, someone had taken control of WGN's broadcast signal. That night, WGN's engineers were closely monitoring the station's transmission. This wasn't an unusual thing. WGN's engineers worked overnight. They worked closely with the producers to ensure the show would go on, every night to every person in Chicago. Realizing almost immediately what had happened, the engineers switched the frequency of WGN's studio to a transmitter link, forcing the station's legitimate signal back onto the air and ending the intrusion before it could continue. For the people watching at home, it was one of the strangest things they'd ever seen on television. Today, a hacked live stream might spread across social media in a matter of minutes, but in 1987, there was only one screen in most living rooms that people believed couldn't be hijacked. Something like this rarely ever happened. During the 1970s in England, Ivor Mills delivered a recap of the fighting in Rhodesia when the audio disappeared.
This is the voice of the law, representative of the Ashton Galactic, speaking to you.
18 months before the Max Headroom hijacking at 12:32 in the morning, HBO had just begun showing the movie The Falcon and the Snowman when a pixelated bar came through with text on the bottom of the screen. Now, from what I can find, there had been less than 5 hijackings ever recorded before this chilly Chicago evening. Statistically, adding one more case to that list would be very rare. Adding 2 would be almost impossible. But by the end of the night, Chicago would make history. In 1987, television stations didn't rely on encrypted digital networks or fiber optic cables. Every second of WGN's evening news traveled through the air on a powerful microwave link between the station and its transmitter. But the engineers had a theory. If someone could somehow, somewhere, overpower their signal, even for a few moments, the transmitter would unknowingly broadcast the pirate signal instead of the station's own programming. This is called the capture effect. The hijackers transmit a stronger microwave signal than WGNs. Then the receiver automatically locks onto the more powerful transmission, airing that transmission. It's not difficult on paper, but whoever these people were needed special equipment, technical knowledge, a clear line of sight to the station's transmitter, and very precise, perfect timing. But very few people even knew how to do this. Someone like a broadcast or satellite engineer would know. A ham radio operator could piece together how to possibly do it, but it would be difficult. Police began combing through the details. They built profiles for the mysterious masked man, but they had no idea where to start. All they knew was that whoever was running this operation more than likely had a team. They had tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment, but most importantly, they had a clear line of sight to the station's transmitter. The station's engineers and police had no clue where to even begin. With no witnesses, the case started off dead. You can't reconstruct a masked man. No one knew if this was one person, if this was a group. Was this something temporary that happened by chance, or something controlled that was planned and executed to perfection? 2 hours after the hijacking, police began building profiles on a hypothetical team to extend their search. But as the detectives tried to put pieces together, they would get a major break in the case. The phone lines lit up. Coming from somewhere in Chicago, the man was back. And this time, we saw his team. And we heard his message. The masked figure stared into the camera, called someone a freaking nerd, mocked Chicago sportscasters. Then he held up a Pepsi can and shouted, "Catch the wave." The reference was strange, but they still felt like it was the work of someone trying to amuse themselves more than frighten anyone watching. Then the broadcast became more personal. The performer drifted through inside jokes, sang a line from a Motown song, hummed the theme from Clutch Cargo, and mocked WGN's connection to the Chicago Tribune by referencing its famous "World's Greatest Newspaper" slogan. Then everything became genuinely unsettling. The masked figure pulled the Max Headroom mask away from his face, but somehow managed to keep his real identity hidden from the camera. Seconds later, another unidentified person entered the frame dressed in what appeared to be a French-made outfit carrying a fly swatter. As the performer screamed, the accomplice repeatedly struck him before the bizarre performance descended even further into chaos. And then it cut to black. There was no engineer stationed at the transmitter that night. Inside the station, employees could only watch as someone outside the building continued broadcasting directly into the homes across Chicago. For the first time that evening, the hijackers weren't racing against the clock. After nearly 90 seconds, the transmission ended because the people behind it decided their performance was over. The picture instantly returned to Doctor Who as though nothing had happened. By pure coincidence, the very next line spoken in the episode was, "As far as I can tell, a massive electric shock. He must have died instantly." By the time those words echoed through the living rooms across Chicago, the people behind the Max Headroom masks had already disappeared into the night. They left no names, no explanation, and almost nothing investigators could use to find them. For years, most people assumed the investigation ended the only way it could. The hijackers had simply been too good. They had planned the operation carefully, left no physical evidence behind, and disappeared before investigators could identify them. But decades later, now, newly released documents suggest the story isn't quite that simple. Through records obtained under the Freedom of Information Act, former FCC investigator Dr. Michael Marcus revealed that the investigation had uncovered a credible lead connected to the warehouse-like facility and a specific employee. And that's what makes the Max Headroom case so interesting, because it's not just an unsolved mystery. It's a mystery that slowly slipped beyond anyone's ability to solve. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here on Hollow County. If you liked today's episode, remember to like, share, comment. I want to hear your thoughts. Who do you think did it? How did they do it? And are they still out there today? Have you heard this story? I'm just kidding. I already know the answer. The answer is yes. One of the most famous television hijackings in history. It's a great story. Just no conclusion, but almost, or probably, a botched investigation. But if you do have a moment to subscribe to the channel, a small channel like this, it takes a very long time to get going. But I am so happy for the support that we have already had, and we have more stories coming for you. So every Tuesday here on Hollow County, the long form episode with shorts spread all throughout the week. Don't worry, TikTok is coming, and I will see you next Tuesday.